Doombots, what's going on? Today is BlackBolt, whose name, and I cannot make this up, is Blackagar Boltagon. They really didn't care in like the 60s. Like 60s comics just didn't even begin to care about anything other than what dumb stuff can we put on the setup. That said, Black Bolt is one of my favorite Marvel heroes for a lot of reasons. His aesthetic is fire, or muy fuego, as we are known to say. He is the strong, silent type, which is what I look for in a dude. And more importantly, his voice is what hurts people. And anybody who can hurt people with their voice is a hero to me. So originally a Fantastic Four character, I believe it was Fantastic Four number 45 from the first run, like way back in the 60s. I'll put a link to that in the description below. He was the leader of the aliens who lived on the moon, which later became the Inhumans, which later became the entire group of people that were experimented on when humanity started burgeoning by the Kree to create a new series of warriors for the never-ending Kree Skrull War. Anyone else know of any wars that don't end, especially on Earth? Especially not in comics. There's plenty. So yeah, that's how long the Kree Skrull War was going on. It was like 40 million years or something. And Black Bolt is the head of, or the member of the royal family of the Inhumans. The Inhumans, fearing persecution, fled and took their entire city, Atalan, and moved it to the moon, and they lived on the moon somehow, on the other side of the moon, so no one can see them, because the moon is locked in geosynchronous orbit. Whatever, who cares? These are the least relevant parts of the story of Black Bolt. Basically, he is among the most powerful of the Inhumans to begin with. His brother, on the other hand, not so much. They fight a lot. Blah. I would expect to see his wife Medusa, his brother Maximus the Mad, and some of the other members of the royal family, as they are mostly inbred, to show up soon. Last thing to point out, especially since this is the first Inhuman we're going over, the Inhumans get their powers from genetics very similar to mutants, but there's not a natural occurrence. It occurs when their genetics or their hidden genes are activated through something called pterogenesis. That's a whole story on its own. In the comic I'm linking in the description below, they'll mention it, and if you're ever interested, please, by all means, don't watch the Inhumans cartoon or animated show or the live-action one. Marvel has never done anything good with the Inhumans. Just, honestly, read a comic. Or go watch a YouTube video of someone explaining them. Or comics explained. Or me. So that's it for that. Let's talk about his powers. Weirdest power set, right? Like, super crazy. It's called ambient particle electron harnessing. What does it mean? You know how Superman cells absorb yellow sunlight and they become hyperactive, and somehow because of that he can fly? Yeah, generic words that allow Black Bolt to get away with the crazy stuff he does. He can channel the particles through that nice little tuning fork in his head. He can channel them into flight, into vibrational waves from his voice, into psychic communication with people. Like, it's whatever. Then he has matter and energy manipulation, which is not the same as being angry and channeling the particles. It is, he can actually change things around him. We have no idea how. He can make a, like, you ever remember in WandaVision when she's like, I'm gonna turn this nothing into bricks and this bricks into a house? Like, yeah, he could do that. Why? Shut up. That's why. We talked about the telepathy. And then, of course, his ability to fly isn't actually flight. He could just nullify the effects of gravity on him however he wants, whenever he wants, but only if he wants to. So, first of all, he's kind of a joke, right? He's kind of like like, you know, when you're a kid and you write, like, this is the perfect person. Like, I'm gonna marry so-and-so. Like, he's like that with the same childlike wonder you think that that perfect person exists. Everything he does is insane. He fought Thanos to a standstill after, like, fighting armies solo for, like, hours. And, like, he's that overpowered a character that, like, Adam Warlock from what we previously talked about, that, like, if Black Bolt shows up, someone's gonna die, basically. You see that very similar with, like, characters like, Thanos, Adam Warlock, Sentry, Void, whatever. And then, of course, just because he is Inhuman, outside of all of that, he has Inhuman strength, Inhuman speed, Inhuman stamina. All the Inhumans are just like X-Men. They're built a little brawlier than regular humans. He's built significantly brawlier. Some of them aren't that. Think like Asgardians. Like, the weakest Asgardian is still pretty strong compared to a human or a Midgardian. Same thing. Inhumans are very similar in build to Asgardians and other realm kind of deities. And they actually are technically deities within of themselves. That's enough about the back end. Let's talk about him as a character. Hero, Cosmic Bio. Cool. Bio characters, there are about 12 at any given time that are the best things you can be investing in. The problem with most of them is that symbiotes, but there are usually a good chunk of decent bio characters in the game. Cosmic, very reliable in the situations where you could use him. He hasn't gotten worse in any of those situations. They're just become better options for, like, raids and everything like that in Dark Dimensions. There's just way better options than him now. Blaster, we talked about that already. Inhuman, meh. Legendary, used to be among the most powerful characters in the game. Now, legendaries aren't as good as characters they give away for free, so we'll see how this goes. As for ISOs, he's one of another characters. The only one you don't want to put on him is Fortifier. He doesn't need the extra longevity. He's very slow. These are things you don't want to do. Healer is reasonable if you are using characters that don't have healing. He has a good health pool. He can help heal other people passively without having to worry about using an ability that does work. Plus, his passive, as we go into it, does increase the Inhumans. I don't like Healer. It's an option. Skirmisher is kind of a joke. His basic already removes buffs, so you don't really need to get it, and he's going to be using his basic a lot as a character as well as an assist called from Yo-Yo and other characters, so don't worry too much about that. Raider and Striker are the same kind of conversation. It depends on what you're going for. If you put Raider on him, his ult will most likely do way more damage just because of the number of crits that are likely to happen. That said, he's not ulting all the time. It's like once every 6 turns. Not a high impact setup. Striker, on the other hand, kind of the same thing. You're going to get more value out of it over the course of a match, but when he does his cough, if the difference was slightly more damage or 40% more damage from the crit on, Raider to kill the character, you're going to feel it. So there's going to be a lot of times that unless you have a lot of investment in him or high investment in Striker, that cough that he does at the end when he's going to, execute an opponent, that might not do it. And that kind of might be the difference. But either way, you're rolling the dice. One, you're rolling the dice on a crit. One, you're rolling the dice on whether or not the actual damage number is high enough. Who's to say? I like Striker. It's kind of like shut your brain off. Just put it on him. He'll do more damage. And especially if you build around him or use him on his team, this tends to come in handy a little bit more frequently, because of how he's ripping buffs off people and what his abilities do. Speaking of his abilities, just to point out how much damage stat he has, if you saw the Bishop video, we were talking about how Striker works after 1800 power. It's kind of the same thing. He's already got a decent chunk of damage on it, so it's reasonable to apply Striker in those situations. And you can actually take that for anybody. If anyone's damage stat can't reach 1800 or isn't 1800, you're not going to really feel the major change, even with all those other things, because it's kind of like different degrees. It's, you know, like you could kill a fly with a fly swatter, but to kill a bee's nest, you're probably going to want to use something a little bit stronger. Even though you can do it with the fly swatter, there's a bunch of bees, and even though they're both flying insects, you want to use the right tools for the right job. The higher the damage stat is, the more relevant those percentages will be. Anything over 1800, I think Striker is a viable option if you're looking to push more damage. Anything under, you might want to look at some of the other options. Now talking his abilities. Passive, 50% extra damage on the cough, 100% if it's villain tech, and 20% max health for self and inhuman allies, bringing it to a total of 50. 50% health increase to himself is insane. The resistance and the rest of the team, that just helps them be better, right? This BlackBolt setup, characters killed by BlackBolt cannot be revived. Still one of his greatest features and one of the reasons why he's still kind of a scary nightmare when you're fighting him in raids in Dark Dimension. When an enemy drops below 25% health, which is officially red health if you were wondering, attack that enemy for 200% damage. This is where we're talking about with the crit and everything. On enemy summon, apply disrupted and clear 3 positive effects on the summoner. Surprise, surprise. Still works relatively well against Dr. Doom. Not unreasonable. Every turn Doom summons a dude, he also doesn't get the offense up. A couple of times I've made that mistake using Doom, realized that my ultimate doesn't do nearly as much damage, or my special doesn't do nearly as much damage as it should, blah, blah, blah. Great passive, absolutely worth the tier 4, but only if you're really using BlackBolt and his team, or at least BlackBolt and Yo-Yo, to do some endgame content. Outside of it, it's just kind of outscaled right now. Ultimate, I think this is the highest damage AoE in the game. When you combine both his damage stat and this, not including like Minerva's health steal, you know, like not including health steals, I still think this is the highest damage AoE in the game with nothing, right? There are some characters that it's like, hey, if I have 5 charges and offense up and the entire opponent team has offense down, like, yeah, that's great. And when you don't have that, this does more damage than it. So it's a big increase in the last tier 4. Again, I don't know how important BlackBolt is to you. My general opinion in the game is that BlackBolt's a character you get to unlock Maw now. I don't think you need to use him anywhere. He's got some value in a lot of places, but I think you could do a little bit better with newer characters, especially with the bio tag or the cosmic tag, than him. That could change when their rework comes around and they start adding new characters. I don't want to give you, get your hopes up, though. Staggering voice, unavoidable attack, 600%. Again, not inherently the highest single damage attack, but one of the highest that requires absolutely nothing to do. 600% damage, plus his already ridiculously high base damage stat. Unavoidable, so will always happen. And doesn't need anything else. The character doesn't need to have defense up or offense down. I don't need any charges. I don't need to have offense up. I don't need to, to get an assist from the right character or a crit. It just does it. So this is one of the highest damage attacks in the game. Whether that's relevant or not to you, it was to me then. I don't know if it'd be relevant to me now. Last but not least, yes, this is absolutely still worth the tier 4. 1, 50% damage, great. 2, clear 2 positive effects, great. 3, if the primary target has slow, flip 2 negative effects. Flip 2 negative on self. That one is the least relevant one. It goes from 1 to 2, who cares? Attack primary target plus clear 2. This also works on assists, and since you can call assists with just him and Yo-Yo, you're basically guaranteeing that Yo-Yo is going to also attack with a basic of BlackBolt on every hit. This is doing a ton of bonus damage, like a ton of it. So he's not only doing the most damage he can, he's getting an extra attack, either an assist or a counter attack through whatever happens. That's also removing buffs, because that assist also removes the buffs and does a giant chunk of damage, and can flip if that character happens to have slow for one reason or another. So huge ups for BlackBolt. Really good character. I didn't rate the previous character of Bishop intentionally. I didn't need to. Giving BlackBolt a rating, he's like an A character, but on the lower side of A. Not that he's going to slide out. He still is good, so you can't really rate a character badly because better characters came out. He can still do very well at all of the things he does. It's now more that there are characters that do better than him for less investment. So I have a 7-star, 6 red Black Bolt. There are characters that I could use in the same situations like raids and war, that are 4-4, 4-star, 4 red, that are a little bit better. So he is the bottom side of an A character, A minus. Great, will have value, can be useful in war, can be useful in raids temporarily. Sure, he exists in RTA if that was a game mode people played. Basically, he's been I'm gonna say Infinity Watch meta of Arena, he's still a reasonable, if you're a newer player or you're just unlocking Black Bolt, he might really be a part of whatever team you end up using. That might not be true. I'm not 100% sure of what year and a half Arena metas are starting to look like right now. I hear that, but who's to say? Anyway, comment below and let me know whether you think Black Bolt is in need of his team rework, the Medusa, the rest of the characters for the Inhumans, or whether you think it's time to just let him go by the wayside. Keep in mind, most people do still have to get him to get Ebony Maw, and Ebony Maw is still a great character. That's pretty much it for Black Bolt. Have a good night. Have a great day. I've been Tony Scungili, and I will catch you later.